Hey, what's up, guys? Britton Frost here. Overthought and understated vlogs and blogs and all that good stuff. Today, I am going to be reading a blog post that I actually wrote last week about Sarahah and the fundamental problem I see with the anonymous messaging app Sarahah. If you're not familiar with Sarahah, it's this application where you can send someone a message. That person doesn't see who the message is from, they just get the message itself, and that's it. They can't respond to it or anything. It was originally created for business, but since then it has expanded into the public realm, and people are using it to send their friends anonymous messages and stuff. And it advertises itself as being um, a means by which you can speak your mind and not have to face the repercussions of owning what you say. And although that might seem appealing, that's actually precisely the fundamental problem that I see with it, that I point out in my blog post. And so I'm going to be discussing this problem within two different contexts. First, business, which is what the app was intended for to begin with, and second, for personal relations, what most of the users use it for now. I don't know what the future of Sarahah is going to be like. It was the number one downloaded app in the App Store for a while, but I think its popularity has it's gone down a little bit. It's not growing as quickly now, but it's still one of the more popular apps being downloaded and used at the moment. So um, anyway, I guess I'll just get right into it. I'll put a link to the blog post in the description below if you'd like to go read it. But in this vlog, I'm just going to be reading it all the way through and maybe having some little commentary in between, like I normally do with these. So I'll just get right into it. The post is called "Don't Use Sarahah. Own Your Words." The problem with Sarahah is not that it creates a platform for cyberbullying. Just walk away from your computer screen, jackass. All right. It's that it's playing a role in the leftist movement against free speech by ridding people of the responsibility of owning their words. Now, I will disclose that I have not used the app, but I don't think I need to have used it to know this. I think it's pretty obvious. Um, in this time when social media is allowing for people to communicate less and less directly, making them more and more thin skinned, this app deals with the free speech problem by cleverly working around it. While most leftist social media platforms, Twitter in particular, attempt to censor content or to simply suspend accounts when people say things that don't conform to their collective beliefs, Sarahah allows the content to flow freely because no one in particular can claim responsibility for it. It's an anonymous free speech safe space, if you will, which defeats the purpose of free speech to begin with, right? um, because we have that anxiety that comes from speaking your mind. We have that for a reason, and I think it's an important part of communication, an important part of growth. So, of course, the app knows who said what, so it allows you the option to anonymously block users if you get an undesirable message. So, content can still be managed in that way. And really, that's fair enough, right? If someone messages you through the app telling you point blank, "You're a dumb fuck," then you might not want to hear from that person again, since they're lacking the tact and the constructive criticism that the app would like of its users. And the same would be the case in real life, you can be sure, right? So it's kind of taken for granted by the developers of the app that people will be respectful for the most part. And from what I've read, people they use it properly. But there are those few trolls, I guess, who don't. And yeah, you want the option to block those people if you can. The point I'd like to make in this post is that the Sarahah concept on its own can seem all well and good, but when you put it into a real world context, the users will determine its true identity, not the developers, through no clear fault of the creator. Of course, not every app developer knows enough about human nature to think through every scenario in which someone might use the app differently than he intended. And this is why user feedback is so crucial for updates on the app. But this is my prophecy about why Sarahah's identity will turn out more bad than good, and why I would generally advise using against it, or generally advise against using it. So why is Sarahah bad for business? Well, first we need to think about, what does a business do? You might think, well, a business exists to make money. Well, on some level that's true, but really a good business provides a valuable service to the community or to whatever body of people it serves. And the better that service is, the more profit will follow, generally speaking. In order to ensure that that service continues to grow and improve, it's necessary that the employees enjoy an environment conducive to the free exchange of ideas. And that might make Sarahah seem like the perfect app, right? Actually, I think the contrary is true, because of what the app leaves out. And of course, it's hard to account for all, potential variables. But what is just as important as the idea itself is the employees taking credit for it, and that's what Sarahah leaves out. Sarahah doesn't allow for this, so it neutralizes the dominance hierarchy within the company. The employer can reap the benefits of having the idea, but he does not have to give credit where it's due. Now, this is very convenient for the individuals at the top of the hierarchy whose jobs won't be threatened. And it'll also be convenient for the human resources department because they'll have fewer cases to deal with. But it could hurt the company in the long run when their employees' intellects are suppressed and promotions are given to the wrong people. This is bad news for female employees and male employees, but for two different reasons, I think. For female employees who, if they thought they were disadvantaged in one way or another in the workplace before, will be even more so now, perhaps without their even realizing it. And I'm going to get to more of that in a second. It's also bad for male employees who will inevitably lack motivation to give any criticism at all. So here are some of the differences between how women and men will be affected differently by Sarahah in the workplace. And I'll start with the female. Sarahah sneakily caters to the female temperament. From a personality perspective, women tend on average to be higher than men in Big Five trait agreeableness. This means that they're more compassionate, less assertive, tend to underestimate their abilities, and they don't as often take credit for their achievements. They put other people first, that kind of maternal, instinct of putting people other than themselves first and not taking credit for it. They're also higher in trait neuroticism, which is sensitivity to negative emotion. This makes Sarahah the perfect place for women to speak their minds. So they don't have to give criticism directly, which they fear doing to begin with. And they don't have to claim responsibility if that criticism hurts someone's feelings, which is another thing that they're worried about. This might sound appealing to women, but I see it as actually taking advantage of the woman's common workplace weaknesses. Though probably not intended, the inevitable consequence of this will be that even fewer women than now will stand out among their coworkers and be considered for promotions. They'll be comforted now more than ever that simply sitting there and doing their jobs is enough, which it's not. Instead of taking the risks necessary to climb the ladder. Now, of course, on the flip side of that is that statistics show that this is a good thing if they want to maximize their mate options, as women prefer mates who are at least as smart and at least as successful as they are, and men prefer women who are successful and smart, but not quite as much as they are. So all of this is true for some men as well, but I suspect men in general will encounter a different set of problems. So how is Sarahah bad for men in the workplace? Since men are more assertive, they will still be more likely than women to give criticism face to face, even if their company does employ Sarahah. And there's bad news for men who do. If a company begins to rely on Sarahah as the primary means by which to take criticism, then direct dialogue between people will be constricted, not enforced. So any man who does not use the app to speak his mind is then taking a dangerous and unnecessary risk. He may get into trouble and risk losing his job if his speech is in violation of company policy. Because I would imagine that if a company did start using Sarahah as the primary means by which to take criticism, then it would follow that speech codes would become stricter within company policy as well. So that, that's dangerous. He won't be able to play the traditional competitive risk-reward game that is crucial to his potential to climb the company ladder. Because challenging the status quo is an important way in which men typically show their ability to think critically, to articulate, and to negotiate. Skills that are necessary for managing a good business at all levels. But Sarahah suppresses these skills. This will allow human resources to keep the hiring process neutralized, so they don't have to promote people within the company based on merit, but rather by whichever absurd and counterproductive standards they choose to meet, ethnic diversity quotas, for example, which are notoriously Anglophobic and, sexist against men, white men, straight white men in particular. Why? So, I wanted to point out the business aspect of this first, but obviously Sarahah is going to be bad for personal relations too, right? Now that the public has a hold of it. And this is kind of to point out the obvious. Like, obviously, based on the problems in business, there will necessarily also be certain problems with personal relations. But I'm just going to point out a few of them, just for the hell of it, even though it's probably not necessary. So why is Sarahah bad for personal relations? Well, it might sound appealing to find out what your friends and acquaintances really think of you, right? But I suspect that the anxiety that will result from not knowing who exactly said those things will far outweigh any positive effect that the criticism may have on you. Imagine walking around at a party where all of your closest friends are present, knowing that half of them, maybe even all of them, if they're all using Sarahah, have only been able to honestly open up to you anonymously. So, obviously, a good friendship or relationship is conducive to honest, open communication, like a business is, but more so in relationships, it should be founded on such communication. And I know it sounds cliche to say, but this can't be overstated given that Sarahah seems to exist specifically to deny that. In fact, we identify who our friends are to begin with based on how open our communication is with them, do we not? So consider this. Your primary friends or your best friends are those few people who you can be absolutely open with. And you know who they are, right? There are only a few of them, maybe even just one of them. Your secondary friends encompass a wider circle. There are people you still may call on regularly to hang out with or whatever. But the subject matter of your communication with them is limited, whether to specific topics or to a level of depth in general. Your acquaintances are, by contrast, are everyone else you know, right? People that you could and probably often should do without. So which friend group do you suspect is the most likely to send you overly critical messages on Sarahah? You might think right away acquaintances. The people who know you the least, right? Well, I think maybe not. Because acquaintances might be the most likely to send you the occasional "you're a dumb fuck" sort of message. But since they know you the least, they think of you the least. They care for you the least. They're the least likely to try to help you. So I'd guess not. what about those best friends who use the app? They very well may use it to give you some much needed advice, but who are they? Though the advice is sound, are they really your friends if they can't sit you down and talk to you? You might be disappointed, or perhaps even relieved if you're a particularly strong person, to find out that some people who you thought were your best friends are really secondary friends, or just mere acquaintances, or they're snakes and not your friends at all. In fact, any best friend who might use the app out of fear of being honest with you, no matter the content of their message, is doing you a huge disservice as a friend. They're simply being cowardly. So to close, don't use Sarahah. Own your words. There are important reasons that we have that anxiety from being honest with people. And that's crucial to growth and the development of your psychological being, right? So be open, be honest, be a responsible human for your sake and for the sake of your friends and coworkers. If your company tries to adopt Sarahah in order to take criticism, explain to them the problems that would cause for you and for them. If they insist, then still give them criticism directly anyway. Get into a fight with those cunts in HR if you have to. Get fired. Who cares? Chances are that it's not your dream job anyway. If your friends announce on social media that they just started a Sarahah account, what they're really doing is reaching out for help. So take them out for a drink and ask them what's up. It may require a bit of persistence at first, but if they're really your friend, then it'll be worth it. So despite what difficulties there will be in the short term, the long-term benefits of having direct critical discussions with people will be worth it, because you'll show them that you are worth it to them. And eventually they'll reward you for it. Cheers.